Here with Andy Katz, fresh from the Iowa-Wisconsin game, drove up to Madison, took that in. Big win for Iowa. People were selling stock on Iowa, and they're coming back around. You're selling every ounce of stock you have in Wisconsin, huh, Andy? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a Big Ten team to lose in the first round when the bracket comes out, put the chips in on Wisconsin right now because it's not working. They're just not in sync.
Yeah.
And, Micah Potter had a really good game against Iowa. Brad Davison made some shots, but that was all in the second half. They dug themselves such a huge hole in the first half. I mean, they just looked like they were running in quicksand. And that's against Iowa, which is not the fleetest of foot. So it just did not – it was not a good look.
They look like they're all old. Obviously, that's the big thing about Wisconsin is they're all very, they're all like seniors. Basically, the entire team is seniors. I wonder if not having like a normal senior year, if this is like a psychological thing where that's just like playing on their mind. They're like, what's the point of all of this if I can't walk around campus with my letter jacket and have everybody, bowing at my feet because I'm the senior on the great basketball team. What's the point? Maybe that's a theory. I don't know. Something to consider.
Well, I'll just say one quick thing about this, and I talked to Greg Gard about this. When they ended the season on that high of this great, second half part of the season, they ended up getting a third of the share of the Big Ten title, and then everything ended, and then no one saw each other for 6 months. And whatever chemistry they built, it just seems like it just never came back. And they've never really been in rhythm this whole season, even when they were winning earlier. Really, the only game they put it all together was against Louisville, and Louisville wasn't even holding that game because Carly Jones didn't play. But they're just not the same team, even though it is the same team essentially that finished last March.
Let's keep it in the Big Ten for the broader discussion I want to have with you, Andy. So Gonzaga, Baylor, obviously, let's put them to the side. They got 1 seeds locked up, undefeated, yada yada.
Tier
yada.
1A.
We've been talking about it all year. So the committee releases their top 16. As you expected, Michigan and Ohio State are on the one line. Illinois is the top 2 seed. So we got 3 Big Ten teams. As it stands right now, it feels like 3 Big Ten teams fighting for those last 2 positions. That much makes sense because I think we're hoping Michigan, Illinois will play each other. Obviously, Ohio State, Michigan's this weekend. So we're hoping that's going to kind of sort itself out, that someone will fall and the other 2 will kind of rise at the top. In your mind, do you think that there is another team that's not one of those 3 that has any shot whatsoever, that's even worth talking about, entertaining the idea of someone breaking up the Big Ten party and getting one of those last 2 1 seeds?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
And the reason is the Big Ten is so far and away the best conference this season that I just don't see another team being able to climb all the way up. I mean, Florida State may play like a 1 or a high 2, but the ACC is not going to deliver them enough net points, if you will, for lack of a better term, to climb all the way up to that 1 line. And a second place Big 12, for the most part, is probably going to get beat up, whether that's Oklahoma, West Virginia, Texas Tech. Does even Kansas climb all the way back up to 2? They're going to just take on enough water that I don't see them climbing all the way up. And Alabama, once again, same deal. If they were to win the SEC outright and the SEC tournament and the Big Ten beat each other up, I still don't see the SEC delivering that. When you look when Alabama stepped out of the league, they lost Oklahoma.
And Andy, I think the big one in Tier 2, at least that stands out for the novice fan, is probably USC, a team that we mentioned a couple weeks ago. Evan Mobley, obviously, is the 5-star blue-chip prospect that you can point to. The fans are like, okay, I get it. I see USC. But at Tier 2, Andy, do you really think that they belong at this level at this point?
Well, I do know that the committee looked at USC as that next team to come into that 4 line. And there's a good chance that USC does not lose the rest of the season.
True.
I think they can sweep UCLA. They're clearly, in my opinion, the best team in the Pac-12. They've got the best player. When Ethan Anderson makes threes the way he did, a week or so ago, I think he had 19 in that game for USC. Mobley had 2 really good games. He had the Stanford game and UCLA where he was blocking more shots. putting up more points against Stanford. But they're playing at a high clip. They're going to end up having a really good record. And, I think that they're going to be rewarded where at the minimum, I think they're a 4. I think they climb up into a 3 when all is said and done. And could they get to a 2 if other teams beat each other and drop? Maybe. But I think they're definitely on the rise over the next 2 weeks.
Won 7 in a row.
Yeah. They destroyed UCLA. They won. Yeah. And that was supposed to be the battle for the best team in the Pac-12, and they handed it to them. All right. Another thing that stands out to me when I look at your tiers, Andy, it seems the more things change in this world, the more they stay the same. Virginia, the Cavaliers, the Wahoos, they win the last national title we had. They are still technically the defending national champions, and yet fast forward to 2021, we still live in a world where people doubt Tony Bennett. They say Bennett ball is not going to work. Florida State handed it to Virginia the last time we saw Virginia out on a basketball court, and kind of humbled Virginia. And now a lot of people are saying this Virginia team isn't isn't a Tony Bennett type team. We should dismiss them already. You have them as tier 4. What does that mean? Translate that for us. When you say tier 4, do you believe that if I told you Virginia is a Final Four contender, are you saying no way, pump the brakes on that? Or are you saying that maybe what translate for us? Tier 4 means what for Virginia?
So tier 4 are teams that I just didn't want to dismiss yet. And I held on to Virginia. You could make an argument I could have put Houston in there, and then they went and lost to Wichita State, a Wichita State team, which clearly is making a push to get into the field. And so that's now 3 losses for Houston in the American, losing to Tulsa and East Carolina. So that puts Houston down a peg. That might be my faith pick with Virginia, even though they got handed to, as you said, to Florida State, giving up 81 points, which is not the norm for them, only scoring 60. So, I went with a little faith pick with Virginia. Texas Tech, I still think, can be in the mix. And Kansas is starting to play some of its best basketball. And by the way, Texas Tech and Kansas play this weekend.
One more thing before you go. Give us Ohio State, Michigan, game of the year in college basketball. I just keep saying it, and hopefully other people will start saying it too. Who's winning? You better say Ohio State or we're just going to cut it.
Well, here's the problem. I picked against both teams. I have a hard time picking against Michigan 2 weekends in a row. Wisconsin disappointed in my pick last weekend. They were ahead by 14 and then blew it. Hunter Dickinson, he had 15 boards.
Andy, you're cutting out. Andy, you're cutting out.
Isaiah Livers, big shots. Franz Wagner. I'm going to go with Michigan.
No, you're cutting out. Sorry. We didn't hear any of that.
Pick, Andy.
We couldn't pick any. We couldn't hear any of it. Unfortunately, we had technical difficulties. Andy Katz, thanks for joining us as always.